Jazz Today with Richie, Beirach and Scheuber.
So, okay. You were talking about Tony, sorry.
I was just finishing saying that Tony's innovation was beyond the drums. This is very important. It was more of an orchestral ensemble innovation in that he changed the role of the drums in the jazz group forever. Changed and expanded, that's what I'm saying, expanded the role. Think about this. Think about the difference between 1959, Kind of Blue, Jimmy Cobb. Ding,
Which
ding.
everybody loves.
Everybody loves, okay. But ding, ding,
Not
ding,
me.
okay?
Okay.
Ding, ding, ding. And then think about 1964, Steve Allen.
Even
6 years
63.
later. 6 years later. And then what Tony is doing on a, it's unbelievable. And by the way, it's not only Tony. It's Herbie and Wayne. And
exactly.
they're all,
Yeah.
you can't, if Tony was the only one playing with like real bebop guys,
Yeah.
he would sound weird and they wouldn't like him.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be appropriate. But the beautiful thing about Tony is that he had Herbie and Ron and Wayne.
Yeah, you can hear this on the Jackie McLean recording. The second one.
And Kenny, yeah.
He started already, but
Little
it's
strange.
not really.
That's right. And with Kenny Dorham, Una Mas.
Yeah.
But he still had Herbie.
But still, in Una Mas is, I think it's okay, but Miss Jackie McLean, he started to be
That's right. That's
to
right.
growing up a little bit more, and then it sounded somehow
People-
very interesting for me. I mean,
Drummers need piano players and bass
but
players.
let me give you a question. I mean, you need not only the drummer, you need also the soloist who makes space, or the piano player, or whoever.
That's exactly right. That's what I was saying about George Coleman. George Coleman comes from a generation like Dexter Gordon, those cats, they play over the rhythm section. They just play their shit, and it's great, but it's like the drums are okay or not, doesn't matter. That comes from not having so many set bands, but pickup musicians, or Chet. You go to a city, you ask for the best guys, and there it is. There's no band, so you just play. And if the drums are not that good, you play over him. But this is about a band. Tony needed Wayne to leave space in his solo, and Herbie, and he needed them not to get lost.
Yeah.
It's a major thing.
Yeah.
And it's, by the way, it still happens today, as you know. If you play things influenced by Tony or Jack, which we all do, all you drummers do, right? Sometimes you get some feedback from the soloist saying, "Hey, what's going on? I don't understand. Give me the one, please." And then you have to do it if it's a gig, but the music goes down in terms of its level of creativity potential.
Absolutely, that's what I was just talking with Regina 2 days ago
Really?
about this. That it's difficult on this level now, where I'm fortunately, thanks to you, and thanks to my teachers, and
Guilty.
thanks to my music and everything, of course,
Guilty.
to find
Players.
which is fun.
Yeah.
I mean, we played a session with many good players.
Yes. We did.
But I feel like an old rhythm section behind player somehow.
If you have to go back to playing how you
Yeah,
did
it's-
in that bebop function, it's
Yeah.
not so interesting.
Yeah, it's not so interesting.
Not so interesting. What's very interesting about Tony is that after he left Miles, then he went to a lifetime with McLaughlin, Larry Young, even more amazing in certain ways.
Yeah.
And then he stopped. And he felt he wanted, I know I spoke to him about this, he wanted to write music and be a band leader, like Art Blakey and Elevate, he wanted to have music, wanted to be a band leader. And he played his best with Herbie and those guys, but Herbie had his own band, didn't want Tony, he wanted something else, cats after years and years. So Tony said, I'm going to be a band leader, what do I need? I need my own music. So Tony, who was not a great composer, started learning music. He was serious, composition. Anyway, he formed a band. What was the music? Was it a continuation of Miles and Agitation and that? No, it started at the beginning again with Art Blakey kind of stuff, but with some nice harmonic things and some personal things but nothing.
Yeah, and his way of...
And the good thing about Tony, which I must admit, he still played like he played in that music, even though it was more hard bop oriented.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it special.
But the way he plays is still this modern, with the gaps and all this stuff. Yeah,
That's right.
That's right.
But the way he set the music up, it was not like open, like, you know.
But this poses another question. What to play after 69, Jack, Chick, and Miles?
I have an answer.
Yeah, me too, but
Okay.
give me yours.
What did Jack think when he heard Tony? When Jack was still in Chicago playing the piano? He said, oh man. But Jack, also genius, brilliant.
Absolutely. We can talk about Jack another time.
We should do a whole special thing on Jack. Jack said, I like that. I love that. See, Tony came from Philly Joe and Elvin. And so did Jack. I spent years on the road with Jack, and he would say, yeah, Roy Haynes and Philly Joe, those are my Papa Daddies. Papa Daddies. He even had a tune called Papa Daddy that he wrote for Roy Haynes on that record, the Jack DeJohnette Complex, with the melodica. Yeah. Anyway, they're all coming from Philly Joe, Blakey, and Roy Haynes.
And Max,
of course.
Tony said,
Yes.
Everybody says, but musically, I'm not agreeing.
I agree. I never liked Max's playing.
Not so much.
And I
mean, he has some innovations too.
I talked to Al, and Al loved Max, and he said, and I said, Al, can I ask you a question? He said, Richie, anything. I said, would you give me an honest answer? He said, of course. I said, do you think Max Roach swings? He said, no.
Well,
no. And here's the thing. At that time, you have to remember, at that time, who could play with Bird and Bud Powell and Dizzy? Who could play so fast and so accurate?
That's right.
And at the time, it was the swing was more like being. They didn't want to play. Most of bebop is up tempo.
Yeah.
Or ballads.
He could play fast. Yeah.
He could play
like
fast.
Steve Levy, and
he had a great hi-hat.
And he had good rhythmical ideas about the drums, about soloing.
He created a lot of the vocabulary of what we call contemporary bebop jazz drumming.
Yeah, but the swing, I agree.
But it was not
sorry
swing.
to say.
I agree.
No.
I agree. So, Tony, now Philly Joe could swing massively. Blakey could swing. Philly Joe was really the real papa because he had chops, he had a great sound, he was already, they accused him of playing too much. You know, Philly Joe is blah, blah, blah. That's where that comes from, right? The big, ugly quarter note, eighth note triplets.
It is, and da 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 da.
Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so, but Tony had great respect and love and honored Philly and Elvin, of course. And Jack was thinking in Chicago, oh my God. But here's the good thing about Jack. Jack is not an intellectual in thinking of things the way we're talking now. Jack is a very natural guy. He's very intelligent. He just doesn't think that way. Mm. And he came up with his own way of playing, like in an almost invisible way. He didn't want to think about it. He never wants to talk about it. Or he talks about colors. You know, that shit, right? But it's not an intellectual situation. It's not logical, linear. He doesn't think that way. And it's great because he protects himself. He says, no. You ask Tony, where do you come from? He'll tell you. Blah, blah, blah. Rudiments, this book, that book, and then, of course, his own stuff. Yeah. And he comes from the other players. Jack doesn't want to know, and it's magic.
Jack is another story. I mean, we have another thing about it. Yeah.
Tony had a great spirit. He had this new spirit of the drums. In a way, it's not rock and roll, but there is something about the volume of rock and roll and the power of it. He loved that shit. He loved it. That's why when he left Miles, he left because he realized he was playing too loud. You couldn't hear it. Ron Carter couldn't hear the bass. Remember those days? There had no amps. They had an
amp, but yeah.
They had a towel in the microphone. Couldn't hear anything. Yeah. But Miles loved it. Miles liked the volume because Miles liked Philly Joe too. So he said, okay, so what's the first band? McLaughlin, electric guitar, and the organ, the Hammond organ, and he was the softest one.
And maybe he wanted to play B-Nair too in this moment.
Play.
Not triplets anymore. Maybe he wanted to play
He
eight
did.
notes
He
or
wanted
16.
to play
He wanted
eighth
to
music
play-
and rock music, but also the great thing was, of course, on the emergency record, they played jazz too.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, so let's be more specific because this thing is hopeful also for musicians that have some training. What would you say some of the main innovations of Tony was in terms of the drums, in terms of the music? Some things that.
Yeah, one thing where probably this asymmetrical answering
Yes.
of him, and secondly, for me, I would say he changed. This is the interesting thing. I'm thinking about this a lot. If it's by accident or musical idea or maybe just genius innovation, whatever it is, he kept still swinging very traditional with the right hand.
I know.
Actually, at the end too.
Absolutely.
He's not like Jack, broken feel like crazy, but he invented this pulse on the left foot for whatever reason it was.
Yes, I agree. And here's more specific. Tony transferred the role of the ride cymbal to another possibility to 4 on a hi-hat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tremendous innovation.
Yeah, and sometimes he makes this. He makes the pulse, the pulse, and the feeling of the hi-hat, and makes it roll.
Yeah.
And it's not going with the right hand.
No.
He transformed it to the left foot.
What a great
which is
thing.
amazing.
It is similar to, I know this from talking to Jack. I said, what is all this hi-hat? How do you do it? He said, Richie, the original roll of the bass drum was boom, 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 boom. 4 beats, very soft.
On the floor.
4, 4, and the hi-hat on 2 and 4, and ding, jing, ding, and that's the big encyclopedia, okay?
Yeah.
And Tony and Jack, of course, they just shifted around the rolls of the drums, right? McCoy did the same thing with the piano.
Oh yeah.
McCoy, think about bebop piano. Middle of the piano, top of the piano. What's McCoy? McCoy said, I'm going and using the bass.
Yeah.
If
Use the whole piano.
The whole piano.
Yeah. Which makes sense. Actually.
Makes sense, and piano is an orchestral instrument, by the way.
Yeah.
And the bebop piano players were very much criticized for being like half of a piano player. You don't expect like Horace Silver, like. One note. What about this? So McCoy
Makes a whole orchestra.
makes an orchestra. Now, what about the function of the bass then? Does McCoy's thing block out the bass? Sometimes, yeah. But it more supports the bass. So Tony shifted the roles of the parts of the drums. He wasn't so tied like a slave to the ride beat. And the bass drum became all punctuation, of course. That was already bebop. Jack took it another step.
It just comes a question to my mind because Tony was so loud and like orchestral too. Why
Yeah.
did he never played with Coltrane? Wait a minute, was it?
He's too young.
It was too young.
Of
yeah.
course.
Was not possible.
No, it's not
yeah.
possible.
60, yeah.
Train died in 1967.
So 67.
September.
He could play with him actually.
Yeah, but they never crossed. By then, Train got rid of Elvin and wanted Rashid.
Rashid
and the
yeah.
guys with the paper bags, right? Now Jack sat in with Train once in Philadelphia when Elvin was late or drunk or in jail or something, and Jack was like young. And so Train said, "Did anybody here play drums?" So Jack said,
Of course, yeah.
amazing, right? But he did play with him once, right?
Yeah. Was the same with Jack, by the way, coming back to I was listening to, I mean, of course, Billy Brooks, and then Philly Joe
Yep.
all the time.
Yep.
All these mild things from the 50s.
Sure.
Cooking and transposing, how it's called. And of course, Elvin.
Elvin, yeah.
These were Billy's heroes, I would say, too. And Art Blakey, of course.
Yes.
That's what they wanted in the bebop school, that we listen to Art Blakey. But
I know.
okay, but Philly was great, and I listened, of course, to Jack. But this was also somehow too advanced, and then had the idea I have to learn before
You're right.
the fundamental things, and then I'm going to it,
Yes.
and not playing like crazy right away.
So how do you feel now about Jack?
I'm very happy that I did this tradition. I think it's
Me
very
too.
important to have a tradition and learn the tradition and then bring it forward or not, whatever, change it. I think it makes no sense to jump over it.
Without trying to jump over it makes it kind of fake. Make what you do fake, you know. Also, the thing that I have a question is about Tony, but not only Tony.
Yeah.
What is the thing that you have to have that makes you a good jazz drummer? That a lot of great drummers don't. I mean, look at Steve Gadd and Erskine and Weckel and Vinny. These are excellent, great drummers. There's no question about it. And they all want to play jazz. And they all try. And I'm not talking about criticism or negative. I'm just saying there is something about the important thing about Tony and Jack is that it still swings. I guess I'm asking you about swing. Like I'm asking you about how important is it and what is the role and can you learn it?
Yeah. It's very important, of course. It's the most essential thing, I would say.
In a way, yeah.
And can you learn it? I mean, probably like everything, you can learn to a certain amount of possibility.
And then, yeah.
But then, I don't know. I mean, I was very lucky with Billy. He was playing with us. He showed us all the big movements we had to play. And it was very traditional, but I think it's great.
But Billy swings.
I realized after years that I didn't put enough one because he wanted to hit the two. But if you leave out the one too much, then it doesn't work too. So it was like, it was like a kind of very funny too in a way.
Did Billy, I think what you just said is very true. Can you learn to swing? No, but if you're around when you're young and forming really somebody who's swinging right in front of you, it's a big influence. Rather than if you had another good drummer that wasn't swinging so much, because we all become what we were, you know, like what we're around, the environment.
But it's the same. Can you learn to improvise? A little bit, of course, I'm sure.
You could learn a little bit, but the level is what we're talking about,
Yeah,
the level.
exactly. Yeah.
Billy, when I listen to those tapes that you have with Grossman and Sal, he's swinging and he's playing very loud. I'm sorry.
He was very loud.
And because he's a big, and he's really hitting.
Yeah. And he liked it, and he said it has to be. And we played very loud too.
So that's
but we had to work soft too.
But here's the thing. That's very important. You could have had a different drummer.
That's right.
A different teacher, like Alan Dawson, excellent teacher, or some other...
He was with Alan Dawson, actually, Billy.
Tony? Billy was with...
Yeah, Billy Brooks too.
That's
He
amazing.
was with Tony. And even with Elvin. And I think he even was with Alan Dawson at the same time, sometimes with Tony.
Right.
He never talked about it. And he had a kind of strange...
Competition? No.
Not competition, but he, in a way... I mean, I don't want to criticize him, but he said kind of, Tony, I don't know exactly the word in English, was not keeping on the jazz feeling. He was kind of...
Going away from
teasing? No, not teasing. Verraten. I mean, I don't know what.
Betraying? Like
a little bit probably. Yeah.
Like a traitor?
He was going away from the jazz feeling. But, I mean, no. He is a bebop player.
In a way, yeah.
In a way. So, but he played very modern, and his kind of soloing and his way of playing is amazing. And what I wanted to say when you asked me about all these great Winnie Colaiuta, whoever, these are fantastic technical musicians and drummers and musicians. But in one way, I feel it's my opinion, it's just my feeling,
Yeah, of
they're
course.
not so free. And Billy taught us all the time, he said,
That's it.
I am learning you to play the drums freely. No licks, we had no licks, not of this stuff.
Right.
Of course,
No,
some things
no.
you have to learn, no frame, but somehow you learn the instrument and you know the instrument and you can do with the instrument what you want. And this
To freely interpret.
yeah, and this was great.
That's
and
amazing.
most of these young guys listen to the great Colaiuta fills, me too sometimes,
Yeah.
and learning fills
Fill.
and putting fills together.
Fills and licks. No.
It's not
it.
not for jazz.
No.
It's like sometimes you listen to a piano player who is great, but playing his bebop licks behind
Licks,
Stan
yeah.
Getz or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I know he's a great guy, but the
He's-
solo is
I
really. I, mean,
agree.
this
I
is.
know. It's
I
terrible.
was surprised, and
Me
you
too.
can see it in Stan's face. I think
There's a George was like,
George played great, but yeah, of course.
did you like Victor?
Yeah, I like him very much, but it's
Does it get to the point where unless it's Tony or Jack or like somebody like that, it's always like, yeah, that's great, but
I love Jabali.
yeah, me too.
For me, Jabali is also in this category, like
I agree.
Jack and Tony and his way, and
I agree.
he has his own thing, and his sound is amazing, and the way he plays is
And colors.
And that's why Quest I like so much, because
Yes.
this is another question: what to do after Miles musically?
Good question.
Very difficult, no?
There's Quest. That's one way.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
But we are the children of that band of Miles. Absolute children.
yeah, and if you look at Leap, how he plays, how amazing, and
Yeah, Lee played with Miles. Jabali recorded with Miles. Jabali's on Silent Way and the Bitches Brew. He's on it.
yeah.
So and of course Billy was with Herbie for 10 years with Buster. And we were 30 years with Quest, and still maybe someday again. But playing with Jabali, when we thought about the band, the original Quest band with Dave, of course it was Al, because Al was playing with lead with Miles, and I was playing with George Abercrombie. It was a perfect thing. We said, let's put it together.
Yeah.
Now Al is very interesting. A great player, a wonderful, intuitive player, swings,
Yeah, crazy. I like him
powerful,
too very
and
much.
very much taste and
Yeah.
burning and orchestrating, but very traditional, and also all emotion, no intellect, never thinks about music, just plays. But Al when I played with Al, it was about support. We would be like on a football team, like together, like. And Al would be boom, bat, bang, and it was improvised. It wasn't an arrangement. And Lee was going crazy. He was going, yeah, he's going, oh my God. And people loved that because they heard it was something we didn't do it for that reason, but it was something for them to hang on to because the harmony was so crazy. Like if you listen to Soft Leaves Morning Sunrise from the first Quest record with George, with Al. Yeah. But Al, I love Al. He became a box for us after a while. We wanted to go further. Further.
I understand that.
And then Jabali. We found Jabali. And George went with Flanagan and Hank Jones and everybody. And we got Ron, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Because Ron, deep tradition coming from playing with Jimmy Cobb and Wes Montgomery and Charles Lloyd with Keith and Jack. Mm-hmm. They loved Ron then. It was magic. And it was definitely Miles, 69. It was definitely Train, 65, 66. And it was some other shit, contemporary music. But Jabali had a wonderful sense of color. Talk about orchestration. He's like over here on the cymbal doing nothing, and then we're over here, and all of a sudden it's an orchestra, like Tony. Yeah. It's very interesting,
but in a more abstract way.
More abstract. That's right.
Without losing the swing and the timing.
Right.
And
Jabali could really swing.
And actually, what I think about Quest too is. These times were, of course, different in '69, whatever, and when they played so freely. Mm-hmm. I like the way you did with Quest, the whole band improvisation. It's for me not going back because it's not so free, it's even more going forward because it makes, for me, I must say, more musical sense because it's not only free. It was this track, I mean, you can listen to it, but you go crazy after 10 minutes because it's so hard to listen.
Yeah, it is.
And you have to listen, it's so often to understand it. And
But Quest was...
Quest, I would not say it's more easy, but it's somehow more together.
Organic?
Organic?
Like, yeah.
That's the word.
That's the word,
exactly.
organic. Yeah,
Organic.
I agree. Because we play together more.
And the way Leap and you having the harmonies and
Yes.
this chromatical stuff
That's
and
right.
with the colors and Ron keeping, this is amazing. This is exactly what,
Yeah.
this is actually what I like the most.
That's how we play.
Yeah. That's
Exactly how we play. How we ended up playing.
so, what's now?
Always forward. Always next.
Yeah.
Should we stop?
Yeah, I think
We have 40
that's
minutes.
fine. That's fine. And he can cut maybe 2 or 3 things from it.
There were some good things, bro.
I think so too. And we have another thing now. I have an idea about the music today. We can make a list and to remember.
Good. We should make a list.
Okay, maybe we should say okay. Rich, thanks for this great talk about Tony and Jack and whoever.